G'day and welcome back to RC Model Reviews. Got an interesting model on the table today. This is the Nano Talon Evo from ZOHD or ZOHD or whatever they're called. That's the Nano Talon, okay? It is a smaller version of the Talon, and I've previously reviewed the Talon Rebel GT and I found it to be an incredibly nice craft. Very well engineered, everything clicks together very nicely. It flies extremely well, very frugal on energy, so you get very long flight times out of it, which means if you want to do long range, you can go a long way. Yeah, and it's stable, it is very forgiving. So if you want to see that reviewed, there'll be a link to it in the description of this video. So after reviewing that, I was a bit of a ZOHD fan, like a lot of people are, because they seem to make some nice craft. Now, they had a few misses. I mean, some people didn't like the Dart XL, I think it was, because it wasn't what they were expecting. But, you know, it wasn't a traditional wing. It was designed for FPV cruising, so it had a lot of pitch stability, which meant if you nailed the throttle, it would climb steeply. That's what pitch stability does for you. That's when you have a lot of reflex on a flying wing to give it pitch stability. You get that characteristic. People didn't understand that, so some people got turned off by that. But hey, let's look at this one. This is a smaller model than the Rebel GT that I reviewed. Not that much smaller though. It's 860, I think, wingspan, 850 or 860 wingspan. So it's only 150 mils less in span. And as you'll see, it's got a lot of capacity inside to put gear in it, so that's good. But the biggest claim to fame for this thing is it's what you'd probably call clip and fly. Clip and fly. You can see here, this is how it came out of the box basically, apart from the fact that I've thrown a receiver in there. And let's put it together and see how long it takes, because it's been designed to be something you can throw in your backpack and cart around. You can throw it in your car as well, I suppose, but if you put it in your backpack, it takes very little time to assemble. Now, I'm working from behind the camera here. This is kind of difficult, so bear with me. Now, the tail feathers, notice there's no servos in these things. They're just foam hinges and two magnets. See, neodymium magnets, and of course they always make that lovely loud click when you put them together, and they're strong, hold things together. So in the back of the fuselage, we've got a couple of slots here. You see that? These just push in like so, and you'll also notice there's a little torque rod here. It's only 2 millimeters, quite small torque rod to move the elevators. Now these are really stiff. I was a bit concerned about that. They're actually quite stiff. There's a lot, obviously the foam hinge there is quite thick, so 2 mil torque rod to do that puts a lot of stress on the torque rod, but hey, it probably quite capable of taking it. Put this one here, listen for the click. A little bit of a click, not much of a click. I don't know if those, just try it again. No, it's not really going clunk, so I don't know that it's really properly seated, because they are, if you look at it, they are a bit wibbly wobbly. Not exactly locked in, as you might say, but this is a small model. All up weight with a 2200 3-cell is about 450 grams. So it's not a heavy model, but it's certainly nowhere near the 250 gram point where you don't have to register. So it's going to require, if you live in America or Canada or the UK, you're going to have to register this thing and put your number on it, which I'll get to later, because that's a little bit of a risk. But there you go. So that's the tail feathers. What could be simpler? And if we look at the wings, it's the same. There's no servos in here, no horns, no push rods. It's all done through these torque rods here. And these are, of course, because we've got ailerons, bigger surface, a much beefier push rod, a much beefier torque rod. And when I turn those, the ailerons move. So what could possibly go wrong? What could possibly go wrong? Now, here's the other wing. I've already put the spar in there. Very long spar, because I think being the Evo, this is the second version of this craft. I think the first one had some troubles with short spars and wings falling off. So they really went to town with the spar on this one, which kind of, actually, I think it's great for structural integrity, but if you're going to crash, you're going to break this. You're going to, if you have a cartwheel or something, you're really at risk of breaking this, because there's no way this will fly off. No way the wings will fly off this thing to save you from damage, as some other models do. They're going to stay on, and if they do come off, it involves breaking the spar. So it's a design choice. It's a compromise. I always say build them to fly, not to crash. So I'm happy with that compromise. So let's put the wings on. I'll put the one with the spar on first, because obviously that's going to be the sensible thing to do. And reaching around the camera, it's just a nightmare here. I really should be in front of the camera, not behind it. But you see there's a little square hole that plugs into, and with a little bit of judicious wiggling, ta-da, and all we have to do is make sure we've got the torque rod lined up with the matching little thing there, and we push it together and click. That's clicked. It's not coming out. That's going nowhere. The other one on the other side, much the same. Line it up with the hole in the wing. Push it together like so, and line up the little torque rod at the back, which is quite important. And again, now it's all built. It's all ready to go. It's together. So, as I say, if you want to go backpacking, this is a perfect model because it will fold down. You can put it in a nylon bag or just throw it in your pack. It'll all fit in. And let's take a look, because as with the Rebel GT, very easy to get into things. It's got these molded foam hatches. There's your battery compartment, and it's got plenty of room for battery. The only thing that will dictate the biggest battery you can use is going to be your CG position. Speaking of which, they do have the position molded on the bottom, so it's very easy to check the CG. Now with a 2200 3-cell, the one you see there, it's a China Hobbyline 40C, very good battery. I had to push it right forward to get the CG in the right place. So that's good, because it means if you're using a bigger battery, you can shove it back and maintain this correct CG position. Now once you've taken the front hatch off, the back hatch just comes off like that. And inside, you'll see all the electronics, the ruddervator servos and the aileron servo. Just one servo for the ailerons because it uses a torque rod system, as I said, to drive the ailerons. That's a great idea, but there's a big but here. This may be a Friday afternoon special, I don't know, but the tolerances on my model are appalling. They really, really are bad. And I'll show you what that means when it comes to the movement of the control surfaces. Let's change the camera angle here a little. Okay, here we go. I've got this on the table. Let's just zoom in a bit on the trailing edge of the wing here. So we're looking at the back of the left-hand wing. And as you can see, it's all connected up. What I want you to watch is, and I'm going to put the transmitter here, hopefully so you can see the stick. I'll just go to change the angle of the camera a bit so you can see the aileron stick here. And notice the alignment of the trailing edge of the wing with the aileron. It's pretty level at the moment. I'm going to put some aileron on here and release. Yeah, it's down a little bit. Let's go the other way. Whoa! Now, look how much that is up compared to when I come from the other direction. See? It's not centering. There is no centering. The slop in the mechanism and the torque tube system is so great that I can't get the ailerons to actually center. You know, and I have flown this model already, I have to say, and the first thing I noticed was that it won't fly straight. It's going left, going right, going left, because the ailerons don't actually go back to the center position. So you have to constantly keep correcting. And it's not the servo. The servo itself is centering perfectly well. I'm going to show you what the problem is. I've got a different angle here to look at. Now, here is the torque rod system. You notice there's a horn on here. There's a tube runs through this plastic mount here onto the torque rod in the wing. And when I move the servo, this rod gets pulled while that one's pushed and vice versa. But look very carefully at the alignment of the end of this to the tube, and you'll notice something. As I move you notice that it's not just rotating, but in response to the push rod pulling and pushing, it's actually moving the inner tube backwards and forwards inside the outer tube. So you're getting slop, and that's where the slop in the ailerons is coming from. Or where the lack of centering in the ailerons is coming from, because this is free to move backwards and forwards, and that affects the position of the aileron. I don't know what's going on. I have a feeling it's probably a tolerance thing. Now, when you make components, especially there's two parts to this. There is the inner rod and there is the outer tube in which it runs. Now, probably 99% of the time, everything is fine, and the gap between the two is sufficient that this doesn't make a difference. But if you would happen to get an exceptionally small inner rod and an exceptionally large outer tube, then you're going to get this slop, this wobble going on, which is going to cause the centering problems that we're seeing with the ailerons. So I think this may be a Friday afternoon special where, unfortunately, we've got a combination of parts that are extremes of tolerance. The rod is at the extreme of smallness, and the tube is at the extreme of largeness. So the tolerances are too broad, too wide, and the bits are just too loose. So we're getting this effect. Okay, now we're going to look at something else again. And these are the ruddervators, I suppose you call them, at the back. I'm going to show you what happens here. Now, I'm mode 1, so I have the elevator on my left-hand stick. I'm just going to pull the stick back, and you see the elevators go up. I mean, that's fairly normal behaviour. I'm going to push them forward, push the stick forward. Look, there's no movement. You can hear the servo, but there's virtually no movement for that stick movement. It's not until I get quite a way forward that the ailerons actually work. It's like there's a huge amount of expo on there. But when it comes to up, no problems at all. Instantly, just a smaller stick movement, I get a lot of movement. This way, nothing, there it goes. And I'll turn transmit around a bit. Hopefully you'll be able to see the angles involved here. It's a little difficult in this setup, but let me move things over a bit, try and get it so, because I want you to see, I'm not fudging this. With the up elevator, which is pulling back on the stick, see, down elevator, nothing. There's nothing happening because there is so much slop in the torque tube pushrod mechanism that the slop is actually taking up a whole lot of the throw for the down elevator. And I noticed this when I was flying too. When I would turn and I put on elevator and release the elevator, the nose of the model would come up. And when I pushed in down, nothing happened. Pushing in down wouldn't push the nose back down unless I pushed a lot of down, and in which case it would sort of only just then respond. So it's like flying a limp noodle if you're flying this thing without a flight controller, because the ailerons don't center, the elevator has got so much slop in it, it's really difficult to fly in a straight line. And I'm kind of bemused. I don't know what's going on there. It's all down to the slop in the mechanism. And just to demonstrate that aileron situation again, you can see the servos up here with the push rods. You'll see that the servos do move a reasonable amount, but the elevators themselves are not moving till I get to about here. So we're getting all that movement on the servos to no effect because it's just taking up the slop in the mechanism. So what's this going to mean? Well, the interesting thing is that I haven't seen any other reviewers commenting on this. They haven't pointed this out. It hasn't seemed to be an issue. It could be for one of two reasons. As I say, this may be a Friday afternoon special. We've just been very unfortunate that all the plastic parts for these torque rod setups happen to be at the extremes of tolerance. So we've got this slop that no one else has encountered. Or it could be that other people are flying with flight controllers, because this is a bit like the Boeing 737 MAX 8. These are undesirable traits. Ailerons that don't center and tail feathers that have a lot of slop are undesirable traits if you're flying a craft manually. But you throw a flight controller in here, and it's going to mask a lot of those symptoms. What's going to happen is when you release the stick to level the aircraft, the ailerons will go back, not quite back to neutral, but then the flight controller will put extra control in to make sure that the machine then stays level. The wings stay level, so it's going to mask that lack of centering. Same goes with the tail feathers. If the model starts to zoom up, even though you've put a bit of down in or released the up elevator, then the flight controller will automatically put in as much down as is necessary. So it will take up all the slop and start pushing down elevator in, because that's what it does. So if you put a flight controller in here, you probably won't notice these particular problems nearly to the same extent. So yeah, but I'm the kind of guy, when I test something, I like to test the underlying airframe. I like to say, well, how does the airframe work? Sure, I could just throw a flight controller and fly the whole thing automatic, you know, on a stabilized mode or with whatever, but that's not going to tell me how the airframe performs. It's going to mask all the traits of the airframe. So that's why I have basically flown it just a basic 4-channel model, just a 4-channel model, and then any bad characteristics, any problems like this will very, very much be shown during that flight. There's nothing masking it or changing the behavior. And I have to say that this particular unit is no fun at all to fly manually. No fun at all, because it will not track. It will not respond to down elevator as you would expect, and it just keeps going left, right, left, right. Here's a little bit of footage that I shot the other day, and you'll notice that it was very windy, but that doesn't change anything. The model was just going left and right, left and right. I was trying to keep it straight, but it was left and right because it wouldn't go straight. And when I came out of a turn, I had elevator on, and I released the elevator. The model pitched up a little bit, and I tried to get the nose down, pushing in what I thought would be a reasonable amount of down elevator, but the model just kept zooming up until I pushed in a heap of down elevator, at which stage it sort of kind of tucked a little bit. So it was very difficult to fly, very difficult to fly at all. And so what can I say? What can I say? I can only test the unit I have. This is the unit I have. I don't know if it is representative of the other units, but what I would say is go and check out the other reviews. I know that Andrew Newton has reviewed this. I think Painless 360's reviewed this, or the Black Edition. I'm not sure which one it was, but they didn't seem to have these problems. So it maybe it's just reviewer's guess. Maybe it's just I got a loose one. I don't know, but you saw for yourself. I'm not making stuff up. You could see, hopefully very clearly in this video, you could see that there are issues with the slop in this particular unit. Now I'm going to carry on working on this. I will put a flight controller on it because the lovely people sent me a flight controller, one that I think is actually going to be a pretty damn nice piece of kit. Well, I've lost it. No, I haven't. Here it is. That's the ZOHD Copilot. And why do I think this is a nice piece of kit? Because it's a flight controller you don't need to hook up to a computer. It is a very simple flight controller, but it gives you the key functions of return to home and geofencing and I think altitude hold as well. I'm not sure, I haven't looked right through it, but it seems to be something that anyone can use. Because yeah, if you're going to put iNav on a F4, F7 flight controller, you've got to go through the command line interface and set a whole lot of parameters. There's plenty of room for mistakes. This looks like it's going to be a complete no-brainer to set up, which is great. And it will, I'm pretty sure, mask the problems that I've seen flying this thing manually. So in that respect, if you're going to throw a flight controller on, these things may not matter. They may not matter. But then again, I think that's what Boeing said about the 737 MAX 8. Look how that worked out. But there you go. Now, one other thing that makes me think this might be a Friday afternoon special, just while I've got you on the line here, is if we take a look at the, when I get a model, the first thing I usually do is I look at the bill of materials, the contents, what's supposed to be in the box, right? And in this case, there was a fuselage, a motor, a prop, left wing, right tail, left tail, and this black thing here. This black thing here. Now, this black thing here is actually a plastic, self-adhesive plastic pad that goes underneath the model on the belly to protect it from abrasion when you're landing on hard surfaces. It goes on here, right? Normally, I put fiberglass tape on here on most of my foam models to stop them wearing out if I land on the runway. And this is supposed to have a piece of self-adhesive plastic that will do that, but it wasn't in my box. I checked multiple times. At the back end of the model, there is a hard plastic on the bottom of the fin, which is great. And I should point out that the fin prevents prop strike, which is brilliant. So, you know, you're not going to worry about breaking a prop if you don't land perfectly. So I didn't get the underneath piece of plastic. So I thought maybe this was a Friday afternoon special. Everyone in a hurry to get home for the weekend and just throw stuff in a box and don't check the contents. Because the other thing that I noticed was when I looked at, I think it was Painless 360's review, it might have been Andrew Newton's, I can't remember. Under here there's another hatch. This thing's full of hatches. Big hatch under here, gives you brilliant access to the ESC in this case. But they also got a laser cut square box you can put a GoPro 7 in. If you cut a hole in the hatch, you can then do downward facing video or camera shots. I didn't get that. That wasn't in my box either. So mine seems to be missing a few bits. What I did get that was cut from laser was this. Laser cut plywood is this. This is a model of the model. If you're into this sort of thing, you'll love that. Personally, the plywood's a bit warped, so it probably wouldn't sit together very well. It's not the sort of thing that really, I prefer stickers. And you do get a lot of stickers, gotta say. Great, you get a lot of stickers. But there you go, that's what I found with the, where's the lid so you can see what it says? The ZOHD Nano Talon Evo. That's it, that's what you get. Oh, what, and finally, glad I remember this. When the model comes, it comes with the motor mount not inserted in the back of the fuselage, but it is just a push-in thing. It's not a difficult thing. However, there's no mention in the instructions of pushing the motor mount in the back. Oh, that's pretty damn obvious that that's where it goes. And there's also no mention of the fact you need to put a screw in there, because if you don't, it will fall back out again. Especially if you go into a bit of a dive and cut the throttle, the drag on the prop will just pull the motor mount out. There's no click, it doesn't click or anything, so you need to put a screw in there. And I didn't get the screw. There's no mention of the screw in the components list, so there you go. It's, yeah, it was incomplete. The unit I got was incomplete, and it's got lots of sloppy bits. So I don't think it's truly representative of what other people are getting. It's reviewer's curse, you know, but I like to point that out. I like to make people aware that I can only review the individual sample that I have. So your mileage may vary, and that's again why I say go and look at the other reviews. Go and look at the other reviews. They have got their machines, they seem fine. So whether it's because they're using a flight controller or whatever, I don't know, but theirs seem to groove and they don't seem to have the centering problems. So just me. Although, again, one guy I found has actually said he's putting aileron servos in his. He's going to put horns and servos because he found a lack of authority in aileron. Now, I haven't really tested it out, but one thing you'll notice is, here's the, look at this. That's the slop and the flex in the torque rod system. So the servo's not moving. Look, you can see that the servo, the aileron servo there isn't moving, but the ailerons can, so obviously what happens is if you put a whole lot of aileron in, it can blow back. So that's why I think he's putting the servos in there, to stop that blowback when you've got high extreme aileron rates. But again, this isn't designed as an aerobatic machine. It's designed as an FPV machine. So if you're going to use it for something it's not designed for, you might have to make some modifications. But there you go, that's my summary. Now, if I can get some more flying in, I'll try and flying it again with the, just with it as a 4-channel unit, because the weather may be a bit better today. I haven't looked outside. If it is, I'll put some more flight footage in, and we'll see how we go. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. Comments to the commenty place, questions to the commenty place as well. I'll try and do my best to answer them. If you've got one of these, have you noticed the same problems? Do you like it? Do you not like it? it's very useful if people who already have these products can give some feedback through the comments for other people who are looking at perhaps buying one of these, because everyone will have a different point of view. Things that you might have noticed, things I didn't notice, maybe I noticed things that you didn't notice, but we can all work together, have a collective input and come up with a pretty accurate idea of how good a product is. But there you go. I will be doing some more flying on this. There'll be a follow-up flight video because I'm putting the co-pilot in. I'll be reviewing this and I'll put it in this model. We'll see whether it fixes or masks the problems with the controls, and we'll see how well it works as a product, because to be honest, I'm really quite enthusiastic about this little flight controller. I think it's going to fill a very important niche in the market. Now, ZOHD have also said that they're sending me the Dart Sub 250 model, which is great, because I'd hoped this was going to be the Sub 250. When I got a package from ZOHD the other day, I thought, whoa, great, the Sub 250. They watched my X-Jet channel, they realised I'm a great proponent of Sub 250 for FPV, but no, it wasn't. Everyone else has got one. Painless has got one, Andrew Newton's got one. I'm the only one that didn't get one, but they did email me and say, we're going to send you one. So better late than never, and I will put that through its test. And I'm hoping that, I'm hoping that it won't have the issues that this has had in terms of the poor tolerances, because I think we all need a really good Sub 250 FPV model. Yeah, I've got the Outlaw, which I have used to test that, that VC400 FPV system. But a lot of people don't want to build, they just want to buy something off the shelf. So I'll be testing the plug and play Dart 250, and I'm hoping it's a kick-ass product, and if it is, I'll tell you to go and buy it, and if you don't, you will be in super big trouble with me. Okay, it's windy today, actually. It's very windy today. It's as windy as it was the other day. But I thought I would go out and fly this again in the strong wind, just to confirm the characteristics I noticed the day before, and yeah, I can confirm it. Now, despite the wind, I don't think that was contributing too much to the problems, but I just could not keep the wings level on this craft because of that lack of centering. It's just, no, it's not fun to fly. And I noticed also that I was pushing half down elevator in from time to time. Nothing was happening. And in fact, when we get to the end of the flight, you'll see why that is a big issue if you're going to fly this thing manually. But overall, the little video transmitter worked fine, the camera was adequate, and I flew around a little bit. I've used very little juice. I was on very low throttle settings, didn't require much power at all. But I did notice the lack of down elevator, and the lack of aileron centering. Now, if we cut to the end of the flight, you can see I was lined up ready to come in, and I gave it a little bit of a flare. I overflared it a little bit, and I punched in some down, nothing happened. I put full down elevator in, and nothing happened. Honestly, look what happened. There you go. So I crashed into the into the building. No damage to the building or the model. This is it still. The wings popped out, but the model itself, there's not even any compression damage on the foam, so that's pretty good. I mean, the fact is this is so light, 450 grams, it's not going to be easily damaged. So, but it does show that the elevators, no, just not doing the job. The aileron's just not centering. So the next step will be to put the flight controller on it and test it like that. Will it be a fair test of the flight controller? I don't know. It's probably not going to fix the down elevator issue. It's not going to fix the down elevator issue. I don't know what I'm going to do about that. Because I also noticed I pushed in all the down trim I had on my transmitter, and it didn't move the control surfaces one bit. So the trim is useless. The trim is totally ineffective because the down elevator trim, even with full down, it hasn't taken the slop out. So the elevators don't move. They're not moving at all on the trim. There you go. So there you go. But I mean, I flew it, landed it, still in one piece. So it's got to be a bonus. Now, as I say, we'll put the flight controller on it. That's the subject for another video. Stay tuned for that one. In the meantime, as I say, thanks for watching. Bye for now. Oh, and thanks to my Patreon supporters. No mid-rolls, as always, on my videos. Bye for now.